I got home that night, and literally it was like fully naked gal laying on my table getting tattooed. And so I go to the room, and literally I can't even explain it other than the presence of God fell in that room. God is here, and like the fear of the Lord fell on me, and I hid under my covers, and I was shaking.
For being here with us today. And I have a question for you. Have you ever had a child walk away from his faith? Last summer I was on a motorcycle trip. That's another bit of my life you may not know about, but I do love Harley Davidsons. And we were doing some filming on a Harley ride, and there was this amazing young man that was just full of life and having so much fun, and he was one of our cameramen. And he would hang out of the car, and he would stand on top of things. In fact, I, as a mother, was having some heart attacks, but he was filming us for everything he could do to make this a great video. And afterwards, we were all sitting around in a restaurant, and I just wanted to talk to him. And as we were sitting there, I asked him, I said, "Can you tell me your story?" And I thought he'd give me this amazing story of this being this awesome pastor's kid, because I knew his family and how life was always awesome and God is always good. And instead, he just began to share from his heart his personal story about being a prodigal son. It's the story of God's love for him, God's love, and a mother that prayed. And I'm so excited because after I heard his story, I knew that you needed to hear his story too. I want to introduce you today to a very special person. This is Colton Moreno. And Colton is a pastor at Legacy Church, and he also owns Moreno Media. He's the husband to Dallas and the father to Raya and to Anakin. We're laughing because he tried to help me with his name. It's Moreno. So anyways, go ahead and welcome my guest. Woo!
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just glad that you're here because I just want you to know not a lot of men want to come be on the stage with me in front of all these ministry leaders that are women, but you are here, and I appreciate that.
I would do it again to hear you try to say my last name.
I know, that was really good, wasn't it? Moreno. But that's not Italian. Sorry. Okay, we'll just move ahead, but you have a great name.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Colton, you know that I just love you. I love your story. I love what God's done in your life. But I know that you were raised in a great church, and a great mom and dad. I mean, I know your parents, like I would give them my children to raise because they're great ministers. But somewhere along the line, you kind of decided to walk away from the Lord. Yeah. You wanted to share a little story, a bit of your story that you shared with me?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it wasn't actually always there was never a moment where I didn't know that God existed. So it was much more of I was kind of thinking about this earlier. It's much more of a Jonah situation where I knew my whole entire life I had people prophesying the call of God on my life. Mm-hmm. You know, I remember a service where a woman pulled me aside and said, "You're going to lead worship for thousands of people someday. And they'd say all these things to me, and it was kind of like, that's really cool. You're saying that because my dad does that, or you're saying that because my mom speaks. And so it was, it was so evident, God in my life growing up, and I always knew that God was real. There was never a doubt in my mind, but as I crept into high school and was in a public school, and we kind of moved a lot growing up, you know, every about 5 years, it was kind of like either church planning or helping another church out. And so just a pastor's kid, just rolling with the punches, you know? Yeah. And so I think I just learned how to, I learned really well how to put on the pastor's kid show for people.
Yeah, put on that mask.
I knew what everybody wanted to hear. I knew what they wanted, you know, so they come to me and, God bless, you know, thank you so much, shake hands, do the shoulder tap, and walk away. And so it was really in school that I started to just walk away from the Lord, and it was more in just I wanted to fit in. I wanted friends. I wanted to hang out with the cool kids, and so I just started, you know, experimenting with things like smoking and drinking and partying, and I played in a band. So I was gigging in downtown Seattle, and this is kind of through high school, and just kind of everything that goes with that, like drugs, sex, and rock and roll, was kind of just something that was just very prevalent in my life at that time. So
So during this time, and you're walking away, Were your parents aware of it? Did they know at the beginning? Was it a gradual thing?
I remember one time I came home and I had hung out with a bunch of friends, and we were all smoking weed, and we were totally just like being like skater punk kids. And I came home, and I was still under the influence of drugs, and I remember my brother saw me, and he smelt it on me, and he went and told my dad.
Because of course brothers always will tell on you.
And so my dad came, and he just started doing that like hug kiss, but you can tell he's like kissing you, but like sniffing you. So it's like it was the sniff kiss, and so I got sniff kissed, and I knew it was over. I knew I was busted, and like I'd been kind of gotten in trouble with things, leading up to that point. Like my parents knew there were things like that weren't weren't right, and so they knew.
But they maybe didn't know to the level?
Yeah, maybe not to the level, or I was always able to like really sweet talk my mom or whatever, but they always just loved me. They always loved me.
You're really good at that. You are. You've got that personality, salesman,
oh man, I've been pulled over so many times, and I've only gotten like 1 or 2 tickets ever. So it's like I can sweet talk people. So I was kind of like able to talk my way out of a lot of getting in trouble, but there's you can't talk your soul out of running away from the Lord. When it was kind of already gone. There was no convincing myself anymore. I was kind of I was caught up in like a full-blown lie, really, 2 lives. And so, yeah.
So you were living this one life, but yet you still had the church face on for people. Were you still attending church?
Still attending church when I was living in Coeur d'Alene. So I was kind of moved halfway through my senior year. I was finishing up my senior year of school, and so I was still leading worship for the youth worship team. And it was so much more about just like, being there for cute girls and whatever, but I was given this platform to perform, and people would always kind of tell me, hey, that was really good. You did a really good job, and that boosted my ego, and I was totally like a words person, so anything, I lived off of that, and so I didn't want to walk away from that, but I'd do that, and then I'd get done, and I'd, be doing whatever it was, like whether it was sleeping with my girlfriend at the time or drinking and smoking,
So Colton, I kind of resonate with you a little bit because I like affirmation too, and I like, I think I could have played in a band, but no one asked, and you have to know how to sing. But you had this, you said it wasn't your parents' fault, which thank you, because that just took a huge load off a lot of people.
Yeah.
But here you are, you want to be popular, how come you couldn't find that in church? How come that wasn't enough for you? I'm just saying this so that we as the body of Christ can reach out to teenage boys like you that want to be popular, that have that great personality like you. We don't want to lose all of you to the grungy scene.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose all of you to the bands. We don't want to lose all of you to Hollywood. We want to keep you. So is there something? I don't
even think it was really the church wasn't relevant or cool enough. I got so many friends that are youth pastors right now, and they've got the hippest, coolest churches. And I don't know.
So we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know if you know Tyler Soley, but he was my youth pastor. He was the hippest, coolest guy ever. He rode a Vespa.
And he wears like really cool skinny jeans.
Oh yeah, we had like the same. We both he wore his wife jeans. I wore my skinny jeans, and we made it awesome. Yeah, I was wearing my sister's jeans at the time sometimes though.
So that probably was TMI, but that's okay.
But no, I don't think it was anything that the church was doing wrong. But I think it was just easier. It was easier to sleep with my girlfriend than it was to choose to not do that. It was easier to go and smoke weed with the cool kids than it was to say no and go to hang out at the church. It was kind of like it was easier for me. It was sin was so attractive, and I'd kind of lived this very sheltered life growing up where I spent so much time again in the church that really when it was just I was given that freedom and I was in public school, it was really easy to make those decisions. I'd never been invited to a party, and I'd never like gone to a dance at school and like danced with girls before, and I think I just creeped into it, and it just like one thing maybe what was just trying something out for the first time turned into another thing, which was going and now like buying drugs for the first time, or going and buying alcohol. It was, high five, shallow relationships on Sunday and Wednesday nights at youth. And then throughout the week, I had my deep community, my friends that we skated every day, played music together, and kind of just got into trouble together. And I don't think there was anything that could have changed it. I had great youth pastors with me.
Because we kind of like that. We want you to say, if you do this and this will never happen.
Yeah.
Don't we, moms? But yet he's walking this road that no matter the parents did the right thing, not that any of us are perfect, but we raise the kids the best we can.
Yeah.
But you still walk down this road. So tell us, what turned it around for you?
Okay, so I was...
How did you get to the point where now you get to be on Off Script with Debbie? How did
exactly,
you get here?
That's great. Harley ride. You just got to go on a Harley ride.
Yeah, Harley's help out.
Yeah.
I know.
No, I moved to Seattle. I graduated, and I moved immediately to Seattle, and was going to study audio engineering, and I moved in with a buddy who was a tattoo artist. I'm coming home on a regular night, and he was tattooing out of our apartment. And so I would come home, and I was managing Zoomies, a skate shop in South Center. And so I'd drive home to Ballard, downtown Seattle, every night, and we had like this little suite, and there would be, a half-naked person probably on our dining room table getting a tattoo, and like kind of clouds of smoke in the apartment, and empty bottles of alcohol everywhere. And it was kind of just like, I'd come home every day, and it was just like, I was just kind of dying, a little bit.
It kind of reminds me of the prodigal son.
Yeah.
He was in with the pigs in the mud, but this is kind of a modern day picture.
Oh, yeah, and there was days, like, we were living in way too expensive of an apartment, and so there was days where I was literally eating cold ravioli at work, like the manager of this retail store, and like, so everything was just kind of just in this standstill moment. And I remember I got a letter in the mail from my mom, and the letter was a CD, and it was just said on the CD, it didn't have a letter inside of it or anything, it was just a CD, and on the CD it said, "These are my favorite worship songs from 2011, and I kind of took it, and I just like threw in the back, because I was like, I'm more like a Kanye, Drake, like I want some hip-hop music, and or like just something that's not church music. I was in Seattle to get away from kind of being stuck in church.
Yeah.
And
so it was like, thanks, Mom, I'll put that in the back.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's lived there for probably about 6 to 7 months. And one day I was driving home from work, and I realized I didn't have my iPod on me. And so I start reaching around for a CD, and that's the one I grabbed. And so I stuck it in my car, and I remember I looked at it, and it was like, "Praying for you, Colton," just like believing God has a call on your life, believing God has a plan for your future. Your mom's praying for you. That's like all it said. And so I stick it in the CD player, and all of a sudden, just like my car starts to get filled with worship. And I'll never forget, it was like just driving and trying to see. Like, I don't know if you've ever been in like a rainstorm where it's raining so hard that your windshield wipers can't do the job. Well, it was like my hands couldn't do the job, because God, just like the presence of God felt so thick and heavy in that car. And in that moment, like it was like years of prayer while my mom just like landed in that car in that moment. And so I'm driving with like my hands stretched wide, trying to see, going down 405. And I just remember I was like, man, I got to figure this out. And so I ended up getting to work, and I'm kind of folding, and I'm just processing, like, God, like what is this? I haven't heard from you in a while. That's kind of how I felt. I was like, it's been a while, man. Like I haven't seen you since.
Where have you been, God?
Since high school camp. Where have you been at? And I'm at work, and I'm just processing this experience that I had just had, and I got home that night, and literally it was like I came home, and there was like just a fully naked, and it's just the reality of it. There's a fully naked gal laying on my table getting tattooed, a full like hip and leg sleeve down her body, and man, I see my buddy, and I love him to this day. I still talk, my buddy Ralphie, and I was like, Ralphie, dude, what's going on? He's doing this tattoo, and I was like, man, I'm just not feeling good. I'm gonna go to bed. And so I go to the room, and literally I can't even explain it other than the presence of God fell in that room, to the point where I got afraid. And I felt like it was going to be this like smite me, like I thought it was the end. I was like, God is here, and like the fear of the Lord fell on me, and I hid under my covers, and I was shaking, and I just felt like all of a sudden like this warmth come over me and this peace, and then I heard simple words. It was just like, it's time to come home. And so the next day I went to work and I quit my job, and I called my folks and I said, hey guys, I'm coming back to Coeur d'Alene. I'm going to need a place to stay for a minute because I'm going to do University of Nations. So signed up for YWAM, and then God's just been doing it all since then.
So you walked away, went back home to mom and dad. I love that. Come home. And your parents, what did they say when you called? Was it like, you need to do this, this, and this, or was it just come on?
No, it was just open arms. And I mean, it was like, it was wild. Like they paid for me to go to study, and so they paid for me for a year at Northwest, and in that time I'm just too stoned or whatever to do anything and succeed in any of that education piece. And so I just like blew a whole year worth of tuition at Northwest, and if you know Northwest, you know that wasn't cheap money.
So that was back in your days when you weren't doing well.
Yeah. So now I'm coming back just like thinking, oh, they're gonna be like, you just wasted our money, you just blew it, and instead it was just like, all right, what's the game plan? What are we doing? Let's get you on track. And so, yes, I ended up for YWAM, got into it, and then.
Isn't this an amazing? Does that not give you hope? So just tell them, where are you today? What's life like for you now? Because you have a great wife.
I've got an amazing wife. I've got 2 beautiful kids serving on staff at a church called Legacy Church in Liberty Lake, Washington. And
life is good.
Yeah, just church planning, serving God. Been in ministry now for the last 5 years.
Colton, what I love about you is you're not ashamed to tell your story.
No.
Because I think it gives such hope. Mm-hmm. It gives hope to many out there, because ministry leaders, we want our kids to love Jesus. My biggest nervous thing was that my kids, I'd save the whole world, but my kids wouldn't serve Jesus. Mm-hmm. And I think you give that hope, that even like you said, it wasn't nothing his parents did. It's just some choices he made, a journey he took. God was there.
Yeah, I joke with people all the time. I truly believe I was prayed into the kingdom of God, and I just think there was just warfare for my life, and I think God had a call and enough people had spoken into it, and I think so. I just think it was just the relentless prayers of my mom and my dad and my grandma. Just like. I believe people just believed in that call in my life, and so.
So what you would say to those ministry leaders out there?
Is just keep praying for your kids, keep praying for your kids, and keep loving them, and there's nothing too far gone for Christ. And so it's like, I think my story is like, if you get into the gritty details of it, it probably would have looked too far gone to most parents. And so I think it was just consistent prayer and just loving them wherever they're at, and walking with them in season, and not like rebuking them and walking away from them to handle it on their own. So,
well, Colton, what I love about what you said, at one point you said there's some out there that you're going to think that your grandchild has gone beyond being saved, that they've done too much, that they can't come back. And I just want to say to everyone out there in the audience, no one's gone too far. God's love is relentless, and he loves you no matter what you've done, where you've gone. And I want those moms and grandmas, those aunts, those people in the church that see this young teenage boy who is amazing and awesome, but they can see something's going on. Don't give up on them. Yeah. And if you knew who Colton is today, if you've seen him lead worship like I've seen him lead worship, when he leads worship, I go into worship because it is from his heart and his soul. And I don't think it would be that way if you hadn't gone through what you went through. But your worship is so powerful because you know what God has brought you out of.
Colton, I know you said that there was nothing that your parents did or that the church did to cause you to want to rebel and go in this direction. But I'm wondering if there was something that the church at large or maybe somebody at church did or said to give you just the excuse you needed to continue down the road, or maybe cause you to hurl, you further down that road that you had already started on?
Yeah, I think everybody's always got those friends that you surround yourself with. And I think every church youth group has got, I'm going to use the name a Mark, because I want to protect my buddy. But I had a buddy, we'll call him Mark, who was the kind of the kid that I really could relate to. And so I think we both we stopped using the phrase we're Christians. We're not Christians, dude. We're Christ followers. We believe in Jesus, but everything else, all the rules, that's out. And we started allowing kind of culture to shape our gospel and our faith, and just using Jesus as a thing that we could kind of spearhead it with and justify ourselves. But we still got Jesus, and his grace covers us. And so we started so I had this buddy, and then we started kind of getting into trouble together. And he was the one person in the church that I really was closest with, but getting into all that trouble with. Be watching your kids and the friends that they surround themselves with, who they surround themselves with, is probably who they're kind of going to become, or the things they're going to be getting into. And then outside of that, just the awareness of that culture of, we can kind of walk away from. It's this big movement, really. It feels like it's happening within the church, especially in the younger generation, where it's Jesus' grace. We talk a lot about his grace, and I believe it's powerful, and I believe in the blood of Jesus is what saves us. But I also believe that when your faith is real, there is that conviction, and there is that something that we stand on. We stand on like a rock, and being able to say no, the Bible doesn't change. This rock isn't moving. This isn't something we're going to start turning into sand and chiseling away at different pieces. It's this Bible is everything that we stand on with our faith, and so we take all of it. We don't pick out the pieces that we like. So,
since you were leading worship in all your seasons, is it different leading it now than when you were leading it in your bad season?
Yes. I don't think what he was doing was different at all. I think he was, he'll use the least of these. I think he was literally using the least of these, and when he was choosing to use me in that season. And I think it was just, he was more so using me as a conduit then, but now that he's saved my life and radically turned it around, now it's worship is the declaration of the worth of God. And so it's our opportunity to declare how worthy he is. And so how much more my soul cries out of his worth now that he's saved me and rescued me. So I think it's more of just a heart posture when I'm standing there, understanding that I'm not worthy of this, where prior my worship was I'm worthy of this, and I'm so good at music, so I'm singing for the youth group. Now it's I don't deserve this. I am the least worthy, but God, because you're so worthy, I choose to stand on the stage and declare your praise. So
Amen.
It's just a different heart
good?
posture.
Amen. Well, I just want to thank Kolton. I hope you enjoyed him as much as I have enjoyed getting to know him and his story, and that you have given hope to many. So thank you. Let's thank him. Woo! Recently, I was at a men's conference, and as I walked into this room of over 1,000 men praising God and worshiping God, I looked up at the worship team. And who did I see up there but Kolton leading worship and standing next to his father? And I'm just like, what a beautiful picture of the prodigal son that has come home. And he led worship from his heart, from a deep place of knowing God's love for him. It's a testimony. And I just want to encourage you today with 2 scripture verses. Lamentations 2:19, for all you parents out there. Rise during the night and cry out. Pour out your hearts like water to the Lord, and lift up your hands to him in prayer, pleading for your children. Don't give up. Don't give up. Keep praying. And then I want to leave you with this verse, which I just love. It's a verse of hope, and it says this, Jeremiah 24:7. I will give them hearts that recognize me as the Lord. They will be my people, and I will be their God, for they will return to me wholeheartedly. Don't give up. They will return. They will return. Mark Batterson wrote a book, and it's called The Circle Maker. And from that book, he did an excerpt, and it's called Praying Circles Around Your Children. And I love what he says in this book. He says, you'll never be the perfect parent, but you can be that praying parent. And ladies, that is my gift for you today. You each are taking home this book so that it can really help you begin praying for your children. Woo!
That was nothing my parents did.
You want to know how to do that.
What turned it around for you?
Hi, this is Debbie, and if you so much enjoyed this episode, like you are just out of control right now, then you need to call all your friends right now, text them, and say, oh, my word, you need to get on Off Script with Debbie, and then you need to like it, and then you need to subscribe, because you know what? You don't want to miss an episode. Thanks.